I never thought I would actually say those words out loud, let alone share them with the entire world, but I hate my parents, and it is specifically because they are a mixed-race couple. I know how that sounds, and I am prepared for the onslaught of judgment, but before you rush to call me a monster or a bigot, I need you to understand the absolute chaos and psychological torture I grew up in because of their constant performative obsession with their own union. I have spent 22 years as a human prop in their social experiment, and I am finally done. Was I wrong for deciding to cut them off completely, for erasing them from my life just because I couldn't stand the performative nature of my own existence? Tell me if you would have done the same thing if you were raised in a house where your identity was nothing more than a marketing tool for your parents' supposed progressiveness. My father is black and my mother is white, and growing up, it felt like I was living in an after-school special that never ended. Every single day was a calculated performance. We didn't just live a life, we lived an image. They would constantly talk about how their marriage was a testament to love transcending boundaries, which sounded sweet on paper until you realized that they cared more about what other people thought of their relationship than they did about actually being parents to me. From the moment I could understand social dynamics, I was being paraded around. It was always, look at our beautiful mixed-race child, look at how diverse our family is, look at how we are breaking down barriers. I wasn't a person to them, I was a trophy. I remember family dinners where my mother would go on these long winding monologues about the prejudice they faced and how they overcame it, and while I understand that they probably did face real hardships, they turned that trauma into a personality trait that completely suffocated me. If I had a bad day at school, it wasn't about me. It was about how the world wasn't ready for our family dynamic. If I failed a test, it was because the system was biased against us. They projected every single one of their insecurities and political agendas onto me, and I felt like I was constantly suffocating under the weight of their expectations. It wasn't just the public life either. At home, everything was a critique. If I didn't act a certain way, or if I expressed an interest in something that didn't fit their narrative of a perfect blended family, they would look at me with such profound disappointment that it made me feel like I was committing a betrayal. I remember when I wanted to join the robotics club, my father told me it was important to lean into the arts because we needed to be the representation of soulful diversity. Can you imagine that? Being told what your hobbies should be just so your parents can feel more interesting at their dinner parties? I grew up feeling like I didn't have a single authentic thought or preference because everything I did was filtered through their lens of what a mixed-race child should be. They were so busy patting themselves on the back for being so enlightened that they completely missed the fact that their own daughter was screaming for help inside. I felt like a tourist in my own life. I looked in the mirror and I didn't see me. I saw a composite of their ego. I saw the person they wanted the world to see, the person who made them feel morally superior to everyone else. The irony of it all is that they were so obsessed with race that they made it impossible for me to just exist as a human being. They would constantly bring up race in contexts where it simply didn't matter. If we were at a restaurant and the service was slow, they'd whisper about how it was probably racially motivated, even if the place was packed and the staff was clearly just overwhelmed. They lived in a state of constant manufactured victimhood, and they dragged me into the trenches with them. I didn't have a normal childhood. I didn't have parents who were just interested in who I was. I had parents who were obsessed with what I represented. I felt like I was being watched at all times, like I was under a microscope, and every move I made was scrutinized to see if it fit the brand. It was psychological warfare. I wasn't just a child. I was a prop in their play, and the stage was my entire life. By the time I reached my late teens, I was starting to realize that the way they treated me wasn't normal. But whenever I tried to speak up, they would gaslight me. They would tell me that I was being ungrateful, that I didn't understand the sacrifices they had made to build this life, and that I was lucky to be part of such a unique and courageous family. The guilt trips were constant. They made me feel like if I didn't perform the role of the perfect, woke, mixed-race daughter, I was basically betraying everything they stood for. It was exhausting. I felt like I was drowning. And the worst part was that they were the ones holding me under the water while telling me how much they loved me. I started to resent them deeply, and that resentment turned into a cold, hard hatred. I hated them for taking my identity. I hated them for turning my existence into a social statement. I hated them for never once asking me who I was, what I wanted, or what I felt. I was just a character in their story and I wanted out. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I was living in a house full of people who were supposed to love me, but instead used me as an accessory to their own egos. And I knew that if I didn't do something drastic, I would lose myself completely. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have tried to talk to them one last time? Or would you have done what I did and just walked away? Take a second to think about it because my next move changed everything forever. I decided I was finished. I spent months planning, saving every penny from my part-time job, and gathering my documents. I didn't tell them anything. I just kept up the act, smiling and nodding while they talked about their brave new world at dinner. The night I finally left, it was a humid Tuesday in July. My parents were hosting another one of their diversity and inclusion salons, which was really just a thinly veiled excuse to get people to praise them for being such a revolutionary couple. The house was packed, the wine was flowing, and everyone was laughing and talking about social issues they didn't really understand. I slipped out the back door while they were deep in a debate about systemic barriers. I didn't leave a note. I didn't say goodbye. I just got in my car and drove until I was in another state. When they finally realized I was gone, it wasn't concern that they showed, but hysteria. They didn't call to ask if I was safe. They sent me messages asking where I was, complaining about how my sudden disappearance made them look to their friends, and telling me I was being selfish. That was the final nail in the coffin for me. It confirmed everything I had ever thought about them. I was never a person to them. I was an image, and by leaving I had shattered that image and they couldn't handle it. I blocked them on everything. I changed my number. I moved to a city where nobody knew who they were. And for the first time in my life I started to figure out who I was. I got a job that had nothing to do with their world. I started wearing clothes that I actually liked, not what they thought looked diverse enough. I started dating people because I liked them, not because they fit into some weird ideological puzzle. It has been a year now, and the silence has been the most beautiful thing I have ever experienced. Sometimes I look back and wonder if I was too harsh, if I should have given them a chance to understand, but then I remember the look on their faces when I was just a child and they told me I needed to change my hair to better represent our heritage. I don't owe them anything. I don't owe them my life, my story, or my compliance. They chose to turn their family into a statement, and they have to live with the consequences of that choice. My hatred for them isn't about race. It's about the fact that they never saw me. They saw a symbol. They saw a project. They never saw the daughter who was hurting, the daughter who just wanted to be loved for who she was, not for what she looked like. I am finally free and I am finally human. I've realized that family isn't just blood. It's the people who actually see you, not the ones who use you to build a pedestal for themselves. I don't regret walking away. In fact, it was the best thing I ever did for my mental health. I'm living my own life now on my own terms, and for the first time I don't feel like I'm performing. I'm just existing, and that is enough. Life is too short to be a prop. And if you are in a situation where you feel used or unseen, please know that you have the power to walk away. You don't owe anyone your authenticity. You don't owe anyone a performance. You owe it to yourself to be free. If you were on my side in this, please hit that like button to let me know I'm not alone. Subscribe for more stories like this one, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I really want to hear what you think about what I did. I'll see you all in the next story.